Hello, hello, hello. It's been a while since I made any kind of video. I've been very busy, or I should say, tired. Taking care of my kids. I haven't been smoking at all that much, really. I've not had time for hobbies. I'm trying to take some time to take it easy, slow down, meditate a bit. So I'm back on here for a quick little video, assuming I don't get interrupted again, because the second time sitting down trying to do this. Right now I'm smoking my, kind of made this myself. I took the stem from another pipe and then took this bowl from a different kind of setup and then combined the two. So it's my own little church warden that I've kind of put together like a Frankenstein monster. I like it. I might give it my own little name. Something dwarvish, because I love the dwarves and Lord of the Rings. And as far as what I'm smoking today, it's some kind of blend with a perique in it. I don't know exactly what the blend is. I went to my local tobacconist, and this is basically, he has a blend called Chifuncta. I think it's somewhat aromatic. I don't normally like aromatics, to be honest. I like English blends, but he took that Chifuncta and blended it with perique. I do love perique. So I would say this is strict aromatic because it's a bit more pungent, I think, with the perique in it. And so far, it has been very helpful in my meditation moments. So it's very nice so far. It's a nice little break from my other more burly smokes I've been having lately. So first order of business, the pipe cottage. He has come home to the Roman Catholic Church, and I am so excited to hear that. If should he ever see this, welcome home, brother. Welcome home. Come on in, the water's fine. I did offer up a rosary for him when I heard the news. I did watch the Pints with Aquinas interview that he had, and his accent never gets old. It's very comforting and soothing to listen to that man talk. I can listen to him talk about anything. Smoking is too fast, I can tell. He brought up many things. One of the things I remember him saying was one of his reasons for the church coming to the church was he wanted more, which then led to me thinking, why am I Catholic today? Now, the difference between me and him, I was born and raised Catholic, but that's not why I'm Catholic today. Because in my younger years, I lived practically as an atheist, not believing. I didn't believe like an atheist believes, but I lived like one, you could say. At least for a little while. I lived like a modernist, materialist. So why am I still Catholic today? I guess it goes back to that. For me, it's partially intellectual. There's an intellectual satisfaction there, a completeness. The church has such a strong philosophical foundation. It's very reasonable, It embraces reason, embraces logic, it embraces, science and philosophy. Well, I feel like other religions try to butt heads with those things, right? I always liked things that made sense. Catholic Church always made sense. To me, it makes sense to have physical things to lead us to divine things, which is where sacramentals come in, statues, vestments, incense, right? All that stuff. Whereas other religions tend to, they don't like those things. They kind of condemn those things. Plus, the church has this 2,000 years of the analogy of the faith. That can't be scoffed at. That can't just be thrown away. You know? I like the tradition, capital T tradition, right? Speaks to me. Because I think Chesterton says something to the effect of tradition gives a vote to those people who have gone before us. You know, and we tend to think we're so special merely because we happen to be alive. Right? Of course, I'm paraphrasing that. I think denying those things is not sensible. To pretend that everything God had to say and reveal only happened in Scripture, that sacred tradition plays no role, that Jesus didn't say or do anything outside of Scripture, that Jesus said, I'll be with you always, but then leaves, and there is no institutional church. To carry that on makes no sense to me. Jesus says, I did not do away with the law, but fulfilled it, right? So which says there's some kind of connection to the old. And we can see that with the establishment, the continuation of a priesthood. You know, like you said, you do as the Pharisees say because they sit in the chair of Moses. It kind of continues when Peter establishes Peter's the head of the church. So he sits in the successors sit in the chair of Peter now. The idea of the vestments and all that is a continuation from the Jewish tradition. Ultimately, I'm Catholic because, as Chesterton said, it is true. And ultimately, that's what it's about. It is true. It is here that I find the fullness of Christ, the fullness of truth. And I can't see Jesus founding a church only for it to go rogue at a certain point in history, like to the point where we need to make a whole new church. You know, as some have done and have claimed. Again, to tell structure, I guess it would make no sense at that point. You would think Jesus would warn us. Listen, the church that I'm founding with you guys, it's going to fall apart. Go ahead and make a new one in about 1,000 years. And then 500 years after that, make another new one. And you go ahead and keep splitting those up, you know, till you figure out which one's the right one. That doesn't make sense to me. That would be also mean that Jesus' prayer, may they be one as we are one, was an empty prayer, never accomplished anything. So the prayers of Christ are fruitless, right? If the Catholic Church is not the Catholic Church, right? If it's not the church, then all that stuff would come into play, right? I'd start to think, well, gee, Jesus didn't know what he was talking about. So I think Chesterton also mentioned that there's 10,000 reasons to be Catholic, all of which boil down to it's true. So that's why I'm Catholic today. And glad to see that Pipe Cottage has joined the fold. And he's come home. Second note, reading Genesis today. How God, the Father, blessed Adam and Eve. And that blessing implies be fruitful and multiply, right? And I find throughout Scripture, when God blesses, that means children. It's not the only thing it means, right? Because Abraham, he also promises him land, right? But children is uniquely connected to with God's blessing. So when God blesses a person, that is going to be fulfilled primarily through descendants, children. Now, those children could be physical offspring, but also be spiritual children, right? It doesn't have to be a physical offspring. The point is, God blesses, and then life happens, right? So the blessing is life. And now we live in an age that contracepts, uses condoms, and all this kind of stuff, right? So we've taken, and those are physical examples, but we also have these spiritual contraceptives, you could say, right? We've flipped it on its head, and now we praise barrenhood, both physical and spiritual. I don't want kids. I want to take care of me, take care of myself, right? Do what I want. I don't want to be in a faithful marriage. I guess if you're not going to have children, what's the point of marriage? The point anyway, right? I want the pleasure without the offspring. I want the act without the end of the act, right? Without its goal, its purpose. I want the act without the blessing, you could say. I think Fluer-De-Lys says something similar to that. Contraception is basically wants a world full of trees without any fruit, and thus granting us the curse of the fig tree. That, Jesus cursed the fig tree. It just died, right? It was barren, didn't give any fruit, so he cursed it. I think that's the world we live in today. You see that destruction of the family. No one wants a family, and the families that do exist are mocked or perverted. The world does everything it can to pervert families and destroy them. Which is just selfishness, self-centeredness. It's all about me. Me. I don't want any responsibilities, don't want to have any children, and thus they end up being miserable. Men and women alike. Although I think it may probably hurt women more because women have that natural desire for offspring, for children to nurture, and they're denying that very essence of who they are. More than, it applies to men too, but I think it's just more potent with women because it's stronger than maybe in a man. But men too. Because men have that role of providing, protecting, and now they have nothing to provide for, nothing to protect. I think a lot of men too are probably scared. Just hit the table there. Of any kind of commitment anyway, because they go, well, gee, what's the point, right? Because we live in a world where women can do everything men can do as far as the providing and everything. So you don't need me for that. And if you feel unhappy in the marriage, you'll just leave me and take all my stuff and my kids. Why would I risk that, right? I think that's the fear of some men. But ultimately, I think it's just we live in a culture of pride and utter selfishness. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of all that too. I think we can all fall into great selfishness and pride. The difference, though, is that I do my best, through the grace of God, to resist that, to try and change my life. The culture does not. The culture says, no, this is good, to be selfish, to not follow God. I mean, it's a utilitarian idea, too. What can I get out of this? What does God do for me? What does belief in God do for me? Is that going to give me a job? Is that going to pay my bills? There's an answer to that, but ultimately it's a wrong way of thinking. The truth is the truth is the truth, whether it pays my bills or not, right? Right is right, wrong is wrong. So we've rejected the blessings of God and instead called the curse blessing, right? Not life is now the new, what the world considers blessing. Blessing to be barren. To the point where we'll make ourselves barren. Not that a person who has barrenhood is not cursed, right? I'm using it as a kind of analogy. There are people who are truly, that biologically barren, they can't help that. Right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about people who are inducing it through contraceptives or denying what marriage is about, this kind of thing, not wanting kids, not open to kids. Well, that's my thoughts for today. Once again, Piping Cottage, welcome to the fold. I wish some of the pipe people that I watch were nearby. We could hang out. But this is my hanging out, right? With the invisible people in here whenever I do this. So, God bless you all. Take care. And embrace the blessings.